So if I were to make one video of all this, it would be a very long video and you would have to sift through it. So I've done this in several videos. This one is an introduction to the assignment to give you a general idea of what's going on with the assignment and understanding what is in the document, because there's a lot of things that can help you there in the document. But anyway, this is just an introduction. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to the correlation coefficient bonus assignment website. So first thing we'll notice is that you'll find a Word doc for the assignment, and the document has instructions that you will have, and then you'll print that out. So you just go to it. Notice that it's downloading here. I can open it up, and there it is, enable editing. Alright, so I won't read this entire blurb here for you, but basically what you're doing in this assignment is you're going to use a table in Excel to do this by hand. But we're actually going to use Excel to help us with the calculations. And then we're going to use the table and compare that to the functions of Excel that already calculate the correlation coefficient. Then we will do the least squares regression line through Excel and by hand, and then compare those, the by hand to the software generated equation. So scrolling down a little bit here, you'll be given a table of values here. So here are the table of values, and this just happens to be a situation with the American black bear. And just note that the length of the bear is the explanatory variable, while the weight is the response variable. So the length would be your X and weight would be your Y. Then we'll notice here as we scroll down that it gives you some step-by-step instructions. Now these instructions are not all inclusive in that sense that they don't give you a click by click or operation by operation method for doing these things, but they do give you a general sense of what you need to do. But the following videos, which you should be watching, and thank you if you are, will take you in more detail and show you how to do this. Okay, so as we see, the instructions are here. So that'll be the first step. So step one deals with creating this table. If you remember in class, we demonstrated a table between drilling depth and time, and you can see that here. So we're going to complete that table using Excel. So that is the first question, I suppose, of this assignment. So then question 2 wants us to use Excel to create a scatter plot, trend line, and least squares regression formula. And then 3 wants us to calculate the least squares regression formula by hand using the formulas that we also talked about in class. Now it says by hand. Now these have some very long decimals, if you remember. So even though it says by hand, you can still use the calculator. Alright, so that brings us up to another thing that I like to point out about this lesson. At the end are examples of what you're going for. So remember, the first question asked us to create a table similar to what we did in class and calculate R here in that way, and then we'll go ahead and look at R squared because that's what the Excel generates in a certain form, which is simply R squared. And then we do an R check. And okay, so that's example 1, which corresponds to first question. And then corresponding to the second question, where we use Excel to create a scatter plot, trend line, and least squares regression formula, we have another example of what this should look like here, just to give you an idea of what you're going for. And then there's an example of what you would do, what I'm kind of expecting in the by hand calculation. Notice again we have some long decimals, so I didn't do this completely by hand. I didn't calculate these all by hand. I used the calculator. I mean, that would have been quite a calculation. So use the calculator here, and then so we have B1 calculated, we have B naught calculated, and then we have Y hat calculated. So that's what we're going for there. So let's get started with the question number 1 of this assignment, which is the next video.